Installing the Cubic Mini has been a lot of fun. It's turning out really good, and I've got my heat shields pretty much worked out. Have a look. I think you'll enjoy this. All right, my paper test went well. There is no browning at all on the paper. The next test will be a wax test. I'll leave some wax. There is a couple sparks, not sparks, but actual coals rolled out of the fireplace and landed there. So I definitely have to be vigilant. Now, just to be sure there's no heat transfer from right under the stove area down through these feet, I'm adding 4 feet on to support this rail in particular, both of these, because that's the ones that the feet for the wood stove are bolted to, and so that transfers most of the weight. But they're set up about 1/8 of an inch further off the floor. So that 1/8 of an inch means that if this gets hot right under the stove, it's not going to transfer any heat to any surface because it won't be touching. So, and that'll just give it a little more airflow underneath. And I think that's really all I have to do. So again, I'll set up the stove, which is laying on its back and right now, and I'm just going to do these 2 feet here, and that will be the next set of test burns. We'll see, but I'm cautiously moving forward and taking little steps as I go, and I think that's the key. Be very cautious with anything that burns hot in small spaces. Okay, I'm going to put the piece of paper back down, and I'm just putting a little stick of wax underneath the stove. Now, I fully expect that should melt, because it certainly should get warm. So really, I'm just looking if I'm going to surprise myself. Now, that's also, keep in mind, where I'm testing makes a difference. This cement floor is cold, while the wooden houseboat, the floor is wood, so it's going to be insulative. So, you really do have to think of all the factors. Do visit roydesignThat.com for more interesting stuff. So there you go. Thanks for watching a little chunk of wax. That's that piece of wax that was underneath. That's a resounding successful test. Means my bottom shielding is amazingly good. That not even a piece of wax melted underneath the stove. So I've taken it apart. I'm done with my test burns. The galvanize is pretty much burnt off, and now I will paint it with stove paint and reassemble. Then it's time to assemble it in the houseboat. One more thing I realized I added a little grate in here I just used an old square I wasn't using that was rusted and everything. But the reason for it is things tend to accumulate. It's just to restrict the entrance. It's pretty dark. You can't see. It's to restrict the entrance so that the opening, so that the wood, what happens is the wood tends to get piled up at the back with coals and whatnot. So you start putting things in, and they slide right back out. So in this way, it doesn't affect any of the airflow. It's just a little gate that keeps the wood from sliding out. There you go. Now you can see it. So that just keeps the wood in a little bit better. Here, the pipes are all freshly painted, so some of them are drying. Goes to a flat black. I used a high heat paint for stove pipes, and they turned out rather well. Now, I just have to point out there's a difference on the rivets, and it will affect how your pipes stay together. These types of rivets are good. The type that is inserted is not so good. Now that could obviously overheat. That's what's happened to these two, and they've decayed away. So what I'll be doing is I'll be adding some screws in here as well, some self-tapping screws, just to make sure these stay together. It's at the top of the chimney, so major heat shouldn't be an issue. But the thing is, plainly, the rivets aren't made with the same strength material, same degree of heat proof as what the remaining material is. I'm also looking at making strapping that goes around and holds it on, so that will help too. But with I had 4-inch pipe with my previous system, or wood stove, and I'm noticing a little more accumulation, so I'll probably have to clean the chimney. Now this was up at the top elbow, so I'll probably have to clean the chimney a little more frequently, but just to avoid any chimney fires. So I'll have to keep an eye out on that. So the trick is to be vigilant if you're going to do this. They do sell double-lined pipe stove, cubic mini, sell it for the cub. So do go and talk to them, and by all means, if your budget allows, go ahead. It's not that they're unreasonably priced. It's just I'm always on an extreme budget, it seems. So I would recommend, if you have the money, you buy the proper pipe and do it up properly. This is its positioning. I'm still going to mark out on the floor and have a look exactly, and I'll tape with some stove muffler tape. That's the word I'm after. I'll tape some muffler tape and just a layer of tin foil, loosely kind of corrugated, whatever, just roughly, and it'll compress where the feet is. But that'll just offer one more layer. Even though the wax did not melt, I'll be 100% sure. I have to cut this little piece of tubing, aluminum tubing, and I have to drill some holes still down through, but that gives us full access. You can see how much space is in here. We usually have our wastewater over there draining, and of which I probably have to make myself a get myself a new trap. At any rate, and we have our big bottled water with a pump on it right here. So I'll be able to get that all in through here, and then we usually put things we don't reach much or need much way at the back. So it actually looks pretty good. And it's fairly out of the way. It does step in front of the door a bit, but I can still slide the step a little forward, so I have a step to get out and step back. We don't actually go out here that often, other than when I'm tilting up the motor, because we don't have an automatic tilt. And I will be putting a corrugated piece of heat shielding on there. Sort of, basically, it's a tile mesh, aluminum tile mesh. But that'll keep us from actually making full contact to the pipe. But I'm going to just kind of wrap it tight around, and that way it doesn't take up much room. But okay, so the pipe is painted. I'm waiting for the top piece, which is part of the original, with the chimney top on it, which is low profile. I'm waiting for it to dry, and it'll come down through. There's the chimney. I'm going to have to replace the screen in there, but there's the chimney painted up. Nothing fancy, but it's actually an old dryer vent. But the key is we're often going forward. So see that little slot? There, I created a scoop that will draw the air, and so generally it flows out to the back. I've not been back-winded with this chimney. And there's a big metal stainless plate over top of our hatch. And then to go down, you can step down there, step down here. There's a handle. I'm filming fast, but I usually grab that handle. And then you can just come on in, lean into the bathroom a little bit and step around, and down you go. So yeah, you got to be a little athletic. No biggie, but that's looking good. Now you see the gap around that. There's an extra ring around the the upper chimney part, and this metal is flanged upward, so that keeps rainwater from coming in. We have a fire extinguisher, and we've got 2 fire extinguishers. I wouldn't count on this one. If there ever was a fire, you'd have to get past the fire to do anything about it. So there's another one up front. Oh, I stole it for my sailboat, for a trip on my sailboat, but it goes back when we trip on this thing. So there are 2, and that looks just stunning in my opinion. But I'm quite thrilled. When this is back all the way, you can see I've got quite a bit of clearance. And like I say, I've been testing the heat. I've got a good 2 inches here as well. And I'll put an aluminum spacer down. It'll be up off the floor. And then I'll also drill and screw this in. And I might put 2 aluminum spacers, put another one up in this area here. And then so that I can positively attach the stove to the boat, so that when we're trailering it, it's not bouncing around. So that's the plan. It's not too messy in here, but pillows have been moved, access, and so there it is. Not visually ugly. You see some dust floating around because I have the light on. It's starting to get dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock, so I'm pushing 4 now. So, but I'm quite pleased. There's enough clearance here, I think, that the other pipe actually was closer, and I'm somewhat convinced it burns hotter because it was a rocket stove design that I made up myself, and it worked quite well for 5 years. But I'm excited that I'm going to arrange the pot, that I can boil some water easy enough, and like I say, I'm looking to make this a permanent fixture. So let me just sit and look at it. That's what you do after you've gotten some work done. I keep stirring up some dust, eh? Yeah. Oh, and I have none of the strappings on or screws on yet. This is just a dry fit, so there won't be a test burn in this. I sadly have an operation, so my hand will be out of play for the next while. So I don't know when I'll get back to it to actually show you the test burn. So please be patient. Visit. I'll be able to make some other videos while I'm down and out. But do visit roydesignthat.com. for more interesting ideas. And thanks so much for watching. She's a beautiful stove, and it's going to work really well by my test burns. And so I'll get that set up, and we'll be all ready for next season. Do have a look into cubic mini wood stoves. This is the cub. For small spaces and little cabins and so forth, I highly recommend them. Take care. Thanks a bunch for watching.